When you think of catastrophic natural disasters, your mind may jump to earthquakes or twisters, volcanoes or tsunamis. But what about when the catastrophe is simply a matter of temperature? Heat waves, prolonged periods of intensely hot and often intensely humid weather, have accounted for thousands and thousands of deaths throughout history. Indeed, India is in the midst of a particularly bad one right now that has killed well over 2,000 people. But India's heat wave, bad though it is far from the deadliest on record. That distinction belongs to the European heat wave of 2003, an event which claimed the lives of over 70,000 people across the continent. Now really, it could have been much more than that. It's hard to determine death tolls for heat waves, as heat is rarely put down as the cause of death. High temperatures usually just aggravate other conditions. The death toll in France was the worst, where a number of different causes led to a kind of perfect storm. In August of that year, a high-pressure system carried tropical air to the continent and stayed there for a number of days, 7 of which in a row recorded temperatures at 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. People in France weren't used to this. The summers there are usually mild, with warm days and cool nights. For this reason, few people had air conditioners, and too few knew how important things like constant rehydration are when it starts to really boil. The elderly population was hit hardest. Many were in their homes alone when relatives were away on holiday. August is a popular month for traveling. That goes for relatives, government officials, and doctors, who were further restrained by the 35-hour work week. In other words, for thousands of French elderly, there was no help and no information on what to do to stay healthy. Bodies began to pile up because of vacations. Many corpses were discovered weeks after the fact. When morgues filled up in Paris, undertakers turned to giant refrigeration warehouses. The rest of Europe was affected as well, but France is a good example of the somewhat stealthy dangers of heat waves. I mean, this happened in 2003, only 12 years ago, on a continent that should have been prepared for something like this. There were contingency plans for earthquakes and twisters and other natural disasters, but not for heat waves. As a result, tens of thousands were wiped out. Heat is a big problem, and with the onset of climate change, it's getting bigger. New studies show that we're bound to see more extreme heat waves this bad in the future. The previous one was nearly 500 years ago, but the next one will likely come in only a fraction of that time.